Solving equations practice. This video will help you study for your quiz. Alright, write this equation down. Negative 2/3 x equals 12. Write this down and solve it, and then we'll go through the steps to check your work. Alright, so the easiest thing to do is when you have a fraction is to clear your fraction by multiplying, not by the reciprocal, but by multiplying it by basically by the denominator. So negative 2/3 x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it by 3. And really, so I'm just going to say times 3. And whatever I multiply to the left, I have to multiply it to everything on the left and the right as well. So essentially what I'm doing is I am multiplying by 3 over 1. And when I do that, my 3's divide out, because 3 divided by 3 is just 1. So I'm just left with negative 2. Let me use a different color. I am left with negative 2x equals, oops, I forgot to do it to this side as well. So multiply that side by 3. So negative 2x equals 36. Now your next step, isolate your variable. So we want to get not negative 2x's, we only want 1x, so we're going to divide by negative 2, because negative divided by a negative is a positive. So those divide out, so we're left with x equals negative 18. Because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. I am not going to go through the steps to check your work. I am assuming that you know how to plug back in and multiply. Now I want you to write down this expression. This is an expression because it doesn't have an equals something on the other side. It doesn't balance out with anything. So it's just an expression. Write this down and use distribution. Alright, so in this equation, what I'm going to do first is change to addition. I'm always going to change subtraction to addition. Oops. So, and actually I can use brackets to avoid having double parentheses. So, you end up with 3 plus negative 11. Now you're going to distribute your 4 negatives to everything on the inside. So you're going to say negative 4 times 3x is negative 12x, plus negative 4 times negative 11 is a positive 44. So this is your expression simplified after you distribute. Okay, now I want you to write this one down, and I want you to solve for x. So the first thing that I'm going to do is rewrite all of my subtraction as addition. And I forgot I'm going to use brackets so I don't have double parentheses again. Equals x plus negative 4 plus 2x. Alright, now on the left side of the equation, I'm going to distribute negative 3 to everything inside the brackets. So negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x, plus negative 3 times negative 8 is 24. On the right side, I'm going to combine my like terms, my x and my 2x. So that makes 3x plus negative 4. Now I have negative 6x over here and 3x's right here. So what I'm going to do, just to keep everything positive, it doesn't really matter which side of the equation you move your x's to, but I'm going to go ahead and add 6 x's over here and 6 x's to the right. And the reason I did that is so that I end up with 9 x's instead of negative 9 x's. Again, it really doesn't matter. So then those zeroed out, I have 24 has the same value as 6x and 3x is 9x plus negative 4. want to get my x's by themselves, so I'm going to say plus 4 here and plus 4 here. So I end up with 28 equals 9x. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 9. So those divide out, so I have x equals 28 ninths. Now you can leave it as an improper fraction, because when you substitute it back into your equation, when you multiply with fractions, you're going to need it in an improper fraction form anyway instead of a mixed number. So I am fine with you leaving it as 28 ninths. Alright, now I want you to write this one down. 8 has the same value as 2 minus 4x. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite as addition. Alright, so now I need to isolate my variable. I need to get rid of these two positives. So I'm going to, oops, I am not going to do that. I'm going to add negative 2 to both sides. So I'm going to be left with 6 has the same value as negative 4 x's, because those zeroed out. Alright, now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So those guys divide out. So I am left with x equals negative 6/4. Now in this case, I would go ahead and leave it as an improper fraction still, but I would change it. I would simplify it to 3/2, because that's going to make it easier when you substitute back in for multiplication. Okay, last one. This is a big one. No freaking out. Write this down, see what you can do, and let's try and solve it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, again, is just rewrite it as, I'm going to put brackets here, rewrite it as addition. Okay, now, before you can get rid of this half, the best thing to do is to go ahead and distribute. So let's distribute here and here. So 1/2 times 3, remember this is just 3 over 1, so that's going to be 3/2. Plus, now look what happens. When you have 1/2 times negative 2, let's just pretend that the x is not there. So times negative 2, that's 2 over 1. So we end up with negative 2 over 2, which really takes care of the fraction problem. So 1/2 times negative 2x is really just a negative 1. So we're going to call that just a negative x, because that's negative 1x, equals 14. So once again, I know some of you are going to have a hard time with that. Just practice 1/2 times 2, and what happens? You end up with 1. But this is a positive times a negative, so you're ending up with a negative. Alright, now you have a couple of options. You could change 14 to 28/2, and you could subtract 3/2 from both sides. You could do that. But just for fun, I'm going to show you how to clear this fraction, because sometimes that just may come up. So we want to get rid of that 2 as our denominator. So I'm going to take everything and I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So those divide out. So I'm left with 3 plus, now I have to take my 2 and distribute it to my negative x. So that's negative 2x equals 28. Now remember, there are a couple of ways that you can do this. I'm just showing you one way. So then we've got to get rid of those 3 positives. So let's do that with 3 negatives. So we're left on the left with negative 2x equals 25. Then what we're going to have to do is divide both sides by negative 2. Those divide out to be a positive 1x equals negative 25 halves. And that's it. Now, any of these that you are still struggling with, and you've watched the video several times, what I want you to do is keep them in mind, and let's talk about them at the beginning of the class period. Don't forget, you can also email me. And here's my email address, shay.howard@austinisd.org, in case you have not written down my email address. Email me if you have any questions.